last word.
Good evening and welcome to The Last Word from wherever you're joining us from, on air, online, and of course, on ground. We started this program because, like all of you, we find ourselves immersed in hundreds of things that compete for our attention. It's almost like there's a crisis every single minute. When you scroll online, there's a new update, something to compete for your attention. The news cycle is absolutely manic. Information overload, they call it. So, what do we have to do living in times like this? We find a space to slow things down, to open them up, and calmly, with facts, data, develop insights that can help all of us start gaining ground and making sense of our world. Well, we'll do this every week on this station and TV. With me on this program is Eric Latif, who prides himself on asking uncomfortable questions, separating facts from fiction. Well, we also have Zaha Indimuli, a free-spirited feminist, Gen Z, and explorer of a new Kenya and indeed the world. On the set is also Sharon Momanyi, a journalist of over 15 years who has reported on virtually the most important questions of our time. She continues to do so with sharp focus. And I am James Smart, deliverer of truth, believer of slow journalism and narrative building. Every week, we will also have a live audience, specially selected to interact and dissect the issue at hand. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Last Word. This is how we'll do it. All right, so we'll start with the hot button. Every week, there's a thing, as I said, that makes us, for whatever reason, uncomfortable, pricks your conscience, or just, frankly, make you mad. We call it The Last Word, and we start off with the first one, Zaha.
Well, my hot button of today is Honorable Esther Muthoni Passaris. Let's listen to what she had to say to Parliament.
Many organizations having demonstrations to bring a petition. The number is huge. But then when they come to Parliament, they know that they have to be a certain number, 50 or 100, to come to the gates of Parliament, not the whole lot of them.
Well, a bill of spatial censorship is what she declared to Parliament as a resolution. 100 meters bound outside protected areas that are actually public. 100,000 Kenyan shillings in fine and probably 3 months of imprisonment from the one thing that is very well protected in the Constitution. Article 37, the right to assembly. Article 24, limitations to rights. So therefore the question becomes for me, when we have a parliamentarian, a legislator, focusing on restricting location, criminalizing proximity to institutions, importantly, allowing and reminding Kenyans that you will be punished for speaking your truth. Where then is Kenya heading? And what exactly becomes the fundamental work of the parliament? She, as the woman rep of Nairobi, is my hot button of today. Questions to her become, and also to Parliament, are Kenyans supposed to be guarded on how to push for their rights? And if so, how?
So the thing about Passaris, for me, is this, that if you look at that bill, whatever she suggested, that was this bill, new ideas, actually not. We've had all these things before.
Exactly.
And more specifically, when Professor Kithure Kindiki was being confirmed as the Internal Security CS, word for word. So, begs the question, does she have any new ideas?
Again, you see, the same Constitution reminds us that for there to be a limitation, there must be a legitimate purpose, there must be a proportionate and the most least restrictive fundamental annulment on the same. So, what was the purpose?
You know, it's a deep one, and I want to pick it up from there because that also ties into my hot button for this week. So, Monday, Saba Saba. Many people who are going to town from as early as midnight all the way to as late as 8 p.m. found restrictions into entering into the CBD. Now, if you remember, in the COVID year of 2020, the government used two pieces of legislation to order a curfew.
Yeah.
One was the Public Health Act, and the second was the Public Order Act. Because of a public health emergency that had been declared in the country, the Cabinet Secretary for Health had to say, we have to deal with this and contain, and had to ask the Cabinet Secretary for the Interior to use the Public Order Act, which allows for the Cabinet Secretary for Interior for reasons such as, where there is insecurity or health emergency, to order a curfew in specific areas or across the country, okay? So come Monday morning, and there was a restriction on how you can enter the CBD. Does that come as, a curfew or not? Here's the thing. There's a Public Order Act, the one that Honorable Esther Passaris was seeking to amend with this proposal. Yes, she has halted the publication of it, but there's a law that exists. It says in Section 8 that the Cabinet Secretary, on the advice of the Inspector General of the National Police Service, may, if he considers it necessary, in the interest of public order, to do so, by order, direct that within such an area and during such hours as may be specified, there can be a curfew. You can declare a curfew. We have seen the Cabinet Secretaries in the recent past, Kithure Kindiki, before him, Fred Matiang'i, declare curfews in certain places because of insecurity. Now, here's the thing, that such a curfew, 8.3, a curfew order shall be published in such manner as the authority making it may think sufficient to bring it to the notice of all persons affected. Okay? So it needs to be published.
Yeah.
And publication of many government orders go into the Gazette. Now, let me ask you, did you see any Gazette that declared Nairobi a curfew zone?
Public holiday.
Within the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 00 a.m. to 00 a.m. the following day, or 0:59 or 23:59? Was there any such order?
None at all.
So this is where my hot button comes in, that we actually had an illegal curfew imposed in Nairobi on Monday without due regard for the rule of law. That's my hot button.
Perhaps we shall take it to the Lord in prayer. Kanisa litajengwa na kina nani?
Iyo, oh, oh, oh.
Iyo, oh, oh, oh. Iyo. I know most of us sang this chorus in Sunday school. I know I did, and it was a very common one. And growing up, we almost take this song literally to mean, we need to build a structure that is the church. But for any person that has been keen or is keen on growing spiritually and their faith, that kind of examination will let you know that this is bigger than that. Of course, you know what I'm heading towards, and my hot button today is about President William Ruto's State House Chapel project. The president came around to clarify that he was not building a church, not building a church worth 1.2 billion shillings as was initially reported, but that he's renovating an existing staff chapel and at a lesser cost, just a few 300 million shillings that is privately funded. This is not state funded. Let's in fact listen to the president before I continue.
Now, I have no apologies to make. Kwa kujenga kanisa, I have no apology. Mnanielewa? Na hakuna mtu nitaomba msamaha. Kwa kujenga kanisa, tutajenga kanisa ya Mungu. Shetani akasirike, afanye ile anataka. Mimi sijaanzisha kanisa State House, nilikuta kanisa ikiweko. Shida tu ilikuwa ya mabati. Kanisa ya mabati inatoshana na State House. Hata kwa maoni yenu. Sasa nimeamua nijenge kanisa inatoshana na State House.
Right, the president there saying that he has no apologies to make. But I want to cut down to the faith, the teachings of faith, because our president has continually fashioned himself as a pious Christian. And even away from Christianity, across all faith, the paths of, spirituality, there's a fundamental message of the humanity of the people, the welfare of humanity. And I'm going to go ahead and quote biblical scripture from Matthew 25, that is 31 to 46. We are in church, guys. This is the parable of the sheep and the goats that Jesus taught. And the essence of this was based on eternal judgment, where Jesus was saying, you will be judged based on how you treat the people that are lesser than you, those that are suffering. Have you fed those who are hungry? Have you clothed those who are naked? Did you welcome a stranger? Did you visit the sick? And why am I saying this? The president, his faith personal notwithstanding, is doing this project against the echoes of our kids who are in the streets. Kids who are protesting because they don't have jobs. Kids who are protesting because they can't put food on the table. Right. There's no future that is looking viable to them right now. So even coming to say that I have no apologies to make, that this is not state funded, the optics are all wrong, Mr. President. Constitutionally, Kenya is a secular state. Article 8 of the Constitution says that, and I'll look at that, that there shall be no state religion. So what are you saying about the aspirations of people who are either faithless or belong to these other religions? You are also a symbol of national unity, you know, constitutionally. So what are you saying? The optics are wrong, Mr. President, and there has been a lot of conversation across this. We've seen even statements looking at the funding, the supplementary budgets that we have seen being approved time and time again, being corrected and going forward. So there's also questions about the funding being said that it's private and whatnot, that there's a lot of this. So the question is, this is in bad taste, Mr. President, constitutionally, spiritually, and religiously.
So the thing about the church and the state and spiritual matters is they get very mangled up, unfortunately, because they are used to politically mobilize. Matters of faith are not intellectual matters. It's a belief. And I think for me on this question of the church is this one simple principle really. This is not a private ground. It's public property. And we hope that anyone who walks to State House then treats that public property and holds it in trust for all of us. In essence, to mean that you don't walk in there and change the architecture of this entire space, right? The White House has survived dozens of years because it's essentially treated as a hotel. You don't go into a hotel room and change the beddings, even if you don't like it, right?
I think also quite interesting, again, when I saw that, I was like, so should we expect a mosque? Should we expect a temple? And looking at the fact that the priorities of this government's index have become so dramatic. Nowadays, I don't even know what the function of government is with what I see. But also, where are the schools? Where is the priority of hospitals? Where is the priority of things that actually matter? Where is the answers to the questions that young people are asking on the streets? They're so simple to grasp, yet a church can answer so much. So I think maybe all of us are invited. I mean, it's public land to go for service.
All right.
Somebody who's watching us on YouTube is saying, Shingdikti, why was it a secret? Drops mic.
Drops mic.
You know, it's good to hear from the audience as well, their hot buttons. And I'm sure we have some people here who have got some hot button issues. We start from my right. Yes. Gentlemen, you can please tell us your name and what's your hot button for the week?
Good evening. My name is Faraj. Good evening. My name is Faraj from Kware, Embakasi South. Today I just want to talk about the Waziri for Internal Security, Honorable Murkomen. The previous week, he told us that the police are going to shoot to kill in Kikuyu. It was shown yesterday, whereby during the protest, where the innocent people, more than 10 people were killed, just for asking their rights and advocating for justice in our country. Now it is time for us to say enough is enough for Waziri. You have to vacate the office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Somebody else? Lady, you can stand up and just tell us your name.
Good evening, I'm Triza Miroya from Ruaraka. Today I'll talk about the report which was released that CBK is not adopting digital banking as recommended by AI. Due to this investment in Kenyan Bank, it's somehow not good. So the government should look on ways to encourage Kenyan banks to consider digital banking.
That's a hot button.
That's a very hot button. We should find time to really expound on this very hot button. Thank you.
How many people understood it? The hot button. Now that's why we need to discuss it some more. And that's why we need to have, conversations around this. Now, in the world of news today, you come across all kind of information. It's fake news, it's misinformation, it's disinformation. There's what you see and you believe immediately. There's what you see and you ask yourself, is it real or not? Now, and the last word, we have a segment that we've introduced that is going to help us to debunk and to understand what's real, what's fake. What's real and what's fake, right? Now you're holding the flags. Just hold on from the green flag. Let's show the green flag to the camera. Green. Green is yes. Red is no. Again, green is real. Red is fake. How can you tell, just by watching something, whether this is real or fake? We're going to have an exercise, okay? Now, I'd like you to watch some video here. I'll play two, but one after the other. In the first video, you'll see the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, speaking. I want you to watch closely. Watch the face, listen to the sound, and listen to Raila in the context that you know Raila in, okay? Face, sound, contexts. Let's watch the first video.
Guys, to be honest, I've missed maandamano. Let's meet on the streets. During Saba Saba, Kasongo must go one term.
From that clip, flag up if you think that is real, in green. If you think it's fake, red. Let's see. You all think it's... Okay, let's hear from you. Why do you think it's a fake video?
Thank you. My name is Benson Munene. I come from Embakasi North, Dadora. I think from the view of how he's expressing that our words are coming out of the mouth, you can even tell this is not the right, that is not the right person, and the ones they are just graded.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So the words are fake.
Yes, they are
but
fake.
But the Raila is real.
The Raila is real.
The Raila is real.
Yes.
Okay, I saw somebody with from the other side. Let's hear. Who's got the mic?
Yeah, I think...
please stand up so we can see you.
From what he's saying, I think that is sarcasm, because we don't expect him being in the broad-based saying such words. It's only a way of expressing his sarcasm to the people and telling you people, you can continue with what you are doing, but we are still in broad-based together with whoever is making us to go on streets.
So the video is real, but it's sarcasm.
It's sarcasm.
But your flag is green. It's a real video?
It's red.
It's red?
Yeah.
Okay. I want us to play another video. Watch again. This one, you will see President William Ruto speaking. Listen, observe, again, context. Look at the picture, listen to the audio, and the context with which you know President William Ruto. Take a look at this video.
Wakisema one term, tunawaambia nini? Tunawaambia nini? Tunawaambia nini? Ati Kisumu mnawaambiaje?
Green for real, red for fake. Green for real, red for fake. No, you must vote. You must vote. Read green or red. Green for real, red for fake. Okay? So pass on the mic to the person behind you. And let's see. You have green. So you see, that video is real. What makes you say so?
Thank you so much. My name is Johnson Karugu. That video is real. Number one, Ruto loves wearing kaunda. So that is real.
So that's kaunda?
Yeah, so that's kaunda. Number two, he was standing on top of his famous vehicle that he loves touring. Number three, he's very passionate about a second term, but the people are very passionate about him going for a one term.
Okay.
So that is a real video.
Okay. So everything that we heard from the president was real, and what we heard from the audience was real?
Yes.
According to you. All right. Gentleman there, you have the mic.
Okay. Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Jeff Tolo. So from the video, I can say the video is fake because of the following reasons. Number one, if you look at the response coming from the crowds, all of them, there is no possibility that all of them can be saying the same thing at the same time, that Ruto must go. The sounds from the video are too perfect to call them something real. Because even we've gone to political rallies and we know how they operate. There is no way or there's no possibility that the whole crowd can be responding in the same manner, in the same tune, without any other background sound coming from the same crowd. That is my opinion.
That is your truth. I like that. We are also posting this on our X platform. Our hashtag for tonight is at the last word NTV. Hashtag the last word NTV. At NTV Kenya, if you go there, you'll find that we've posted the videos and we're asking you, real or fake. Let's take a break. When you come back, we start interrogating and find out which of those videos, if any, is real, or which of those videos, if any, is fake. We'll be back in a moment.
The Ministry of Health will conduct a nationwide vaccination drive. All children aged 9 months to 14 years will receive the typhoid conjugate vaccine, and those aged 9 months to 5 years will also get the measles rubella vaccine, absolutely free.
From ancient kingdoms to the runways of tomorrow, Ethiopian fashion is having a major moment.
Habesha clothes are very expensive.
For one dress to make like this one is maybe take 1 month.
In this special episode of The Glam, we dive deep into the rich threads, bold designs, and golden heritage that make Ethiopia a true fashion powerhouse.
Why is gold so important in your culture?
When you get married, it's giving you gift at least 50 grams.
50 grams of gold?
At least, yeah.
This is more than just fashion. It's culture, history, and pure glam. So tune in this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. only on NTV to get inspired and step into the world of Ethiopian fashion like you've never seen it before. Only on The Glam.
This is the last word on NTV. Remember, our hashtag tonight is the last word NTV, hashtag last word NTV. And we are at this point where we are asking ourselves, how do you tell real from fake when it comes to the media that you consume online? Okay, we've played 2 videos and we've asked our audience here, vote using your green or red flag, whether it's real or fake. 1 video, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. 2nd video, President William Ruto. Now, smart, how do we tell when a video is real or fake? How do we do it in the newsroom?
Okay, so it's difficult, and if you can see from the audience that there's difficult to choose. There's the obvious one where the video looks fake, you know, the mouth is not very coordinated. AI still doesn't know how to count fingers, so it's a good place for you to stop a video and look at the fingers. It can't do 5 fingers, by the way. It has no clue to do that. So that would be pretty easy on finding out things that are not coordinated. It gets extremely difficult when the video then is combined with great editing, like a real video and a sound is different. That becomes a little bit more complex because then we have to find a source. When did, for instance, William Ruto say this thing, in what event? And then find the exact clip and play it. And to be honest, as a regular scroller of WhatsApp and Twitter, you have no time to go back to the original video. So that becomes a bit problematic. But there are certain things that should raise a red flag. For instance, if you see for the first time a clip of, politician or someone saying absolutely something ridiculous, it's a good place for you to stop and don't share it, because chances are that most often than not, it is a lie and it's fake. So that's a good place to start. Number two is when a political leader is saying something that is different, you need to go to the original sources. So fast news sites are a good place to go. Go to ntvkenya.co.ke, go to the Daily Nation, or Nation Africa. If it's not reported there, chances that is not true, all right? Give it a moment, because there's people who are employed to actually find the truth. So you don't need to be the one to going and saying, by the way, have you seen what Raila Odinga just said today, all right? Or what Kalonzo Musyoka said today? You don't need to do that. So we need to help each other not to be, because see, the thing happens is this: when you get a video and send it to the next person, you will not help solve the problem, all right? Especially when you don't know this to be true for a fact. Yeah, we need to make sure that you stop. Fake news stops with you, so don't share the video if you like it in that sense.
Fake news stops with you. Gen Z Zaha, how are you consuming this content, and how do you tell what's real, what's fake?
It's interesting to be a native of a digital world. But then again, we have to understand the perception of thought influences and fuels AI integration. So AI will create what the masses necessarily want to see. And that's how information, misinformation, disinformation is actually very much weaponized in different spaces. But importantly, there's deep fakes, there's voice cloning, there's bot amplification, there's image manipulation, and all those things AI cannot do so perfectly. So they're very easy to connote. In fact, for some of the videos, the responses from the crowds were almost right before the president, because we all know how when the president is delivering, the hand reaches there first, then he finishes the sentence. Guys were responding before the hand actually gets there, and things like that. They're very small. They can very much be very absent when you just see it for a first time, but AI is integrated very much so with the perception of the masses and how much of that data the public actually looks for. So the AI adjusts, and actually depending on which algorithm you're using, it will very much align to exactly what you want to hear. And I think everyone would definitely say Honorable Raila saying one term is probably the best thing we could hear, but then again, you're reminded of where he stands in this government, and of course you clock that it is very much an AI generation.
Sharon, what's your journalistic...
Right, I think we have to be critical thinkers. Most of this AI-generated content are done for a particular reason. It's either spreading propaganda, there's misinformation, and the crucial thing to do then is to ask yourself who stands to benefit. When you see a video or somebody, an actor, a character speaking or saying something that is out of character, then there's critical thinking that is imperative on us to ask. Because, for example, people, Ruto speaking and people shouting one term back at him, it would not ordinarily.
Yeah, pause and think. Yeah. So I think that.
And who would post that?
Yeah.
Who would post that?
Generally, there's things that about fake news. The things that self-reinforces what you want to think and believe are the things that would take off. So you find yourself sharing videos, just that you'd want that to happen. All right, you'd want the president to be in a place where people are saying one term back at him. So pause and think. Right? Do you think that would really happen?
So basically, the most basic test is logic, right? 100%. Use your logic. We have posted the two videos on X at NTV Kenya, and we're asking people. So the first video of Raila Odinga, again, by show of your flag, green for real and red for fake. What did you say? Fake. For the Raila Odinga video, even the people online agree. 61.5% actually say it's fake, and the other 38.5% think it's real. Let's play the actual video of Raila Odinga when he was speaking in the context that we have seen in there.
Positions are available, from the president to governor to Senate, to MPs, and all the way to the members of county assemblies. People know the roles and responsibilities assigned to positions they choose to run for, and nobody should attempt to change.
Now, if you look at that video, first you can see that in the video that we played, Raila's shirt is more blue than what we've just seen, right? Number one. And number two, if you just listen to how he speaks, that's Raila speaking. But what we saw in the previous clip was the AI creation of the image of Raila Odinga and the distortion of the voice of Raila Odinga, both AI generated. The actual clip was Raila Odinga speaking in November 2024, where he was actually calling a press conference at his Capitol Hill offices, and he was castigating abductions. The second clip was President William Ruto speaking, and he said one term, and people said, okay, let's see again. Your vote, what was it? Real, green, fake, red? What did we have? So like a balanced one, eh? Huh?
It's a little more...
It's more confusing.
Yes.
People online, 65.6% think that the Ruto video is real. Let's play the actual video from that.
Ni jukumu letu kama viongozi, mimi nikiongoza, kuunganisha Wakenya wote. Hakuna jamii itawachwa nyuma tena. Hakuna sehemu itawachwa nyuma tena. Hakuna Wakenya watawachwa nyuma tena. Tutatembea pamoja, sambamba, bega kwa bega. Tuhakikisha kwamba Kenya ime...
If you listen throughout that clip, there is nowhere where the crowd is shouting at him or being unruly. So would it be logical then that at some point that crowd would so overwhelmingly respond the way they responded to him? The reality is no. So that clip, yes, the president was speaking in Kisumu, but the audio was distorted. And the clip that we played, remember, they're showing us the clip of the president from the back, and we don't see any mouths from the audience. So they brought in the words from another event, maybe not even the presidential event, where people are saying the one-term words. So one-term was not in that particular incident where the president spoke to this gathering in Kisumu. So the second video as well, fake. 65% had thought here that it's real, and almost half of the people here had thought it is real. Okay? That's how we decode how we can tell a fake video. We call that the NTV fact check. Okay? So it's always very important to always consider, as we said, that the what you use most is
logic.
Logic.
We have to use logic.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do this every week. We call it the NTV fact check. That would find a thing that is showing up, and we'll try and dissect it and make sense of it all. It's important for all of us. As we said, this is why we call this program The Last Word. But let's get to the topic of today, all right? And the question that we're asking today is, do you think, or do you feel that Kenya is more democratic today than it was 35 years ago when the first Saba Saba showed up in 1990? So a bit of context. 1990, Kenya was in a one-party state, and a section of Kenyans then felt, absolutely that is wrong. We should do something about it. And then President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi was running a one-party state and a system constitutionally guaranteed that everyone has to be in one political party. Now, the protests that showed up on that day called Saba Saba, where people were maimed and killed, is regarded as the first bottom line of us getting into this new constitutional dispensation. After that, pretty much after that, we got into a multi-party, and Kenya was regarded then to start looking up democratically. And so the question then is, yesterday, from the maandamano on Saba Saba Day, 35 years later, if you look, do we believe that we've made progress? Is Kenya in a more democratic space than it was, say, 35 years ago? Complex question to think about. But also democracy is an animal. It's a concept. It's something that we experience, we feel, and we don't know what it is. Zaha, our dictionary, define it for us. What is this democracy thing that we'd like to talk about?
Well, in layman language, since again, the education spectrum of Kenya seems to be very diverse, especially in the ones who we are trying to describe. Well, democracy is a system of government which power is vested. And I think I'd want to say specifically, power is vested in the people who exercise that power either directly or through elected representatives. The word there specifically is that it is vested by the people. It is a social construct or contract between the public that they vest out some of the power to elected representatives who then use your small shared power to represent you on that scale.
The people shall.
The people shall.
What are the pillars?
Of course, and this power that is vested in the people manifests. Particularly in our context, we have to look at pillars in which democracy manifests and comes alive in our country. And we want to look at 4 pillars, particularly, of democracy. That is the separation of powers we have in our country, the executive, the legislation, and the judiciary. And the aim of this is to not have the concentration of power in one particular arm, and this allows then for oversight and for representation. We also have institutions as the second pillar, establishment of credible institutions. Crucially, in the center of this is electoral institutions, that's the IEBC, which then will assure free and fair and regular elections, which is a very fundamental pillar to democracy, making sure that leadership is transient and that the voice of the people is heard and is protected. We also have the rule of law, very fundamental in a democracy, which is the principle that all individuals and institutions are subject and accountable to laws that govern all of us. Very crucial things that, of course, we will be unpacking as we look at the state of where we are right now. And the fourth is the freedoms that are guaranteed in the Constitution, which is also very important in a democracy. We have freedoms that we can look at in Kenya specifically that are overarching and that we've seen people expressing the state of it and how they feel their freedoms. Freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, freedom of the media, very fundamental freedoms that are protected by the rules that govern us as a democratic state. The question then becomes, how are these pillars? Are these pillars standing? Are they supported? Are they under threat? Then becomes the rule and the measure of our democracy.
Right. So this democracy thing, away from from our academics, is really at the bottom line how we imagine we govern ourselves. The point being that we, the people, have all the powers, and then we donate these powers to a group of people we call politicians to exercise it on our behalf. All right? Yes. That is the fundamental principle, and I'm absolutely going to murder this. Churchill said democracy is a bad system of governance. Okay? But with the rider, the other forms are worse than it. All right? Just to make sense. Latif.
Who says democracy?
Churchill. It's a bad system of governance, right? And I mean, I'll go to it because the frictions of democracy are problematic, right? The judiciary, has to.
Statement.
Yes, and it is. It's a bad system because we have to fight about it almost all the time. But that is literally at the core of what democracy is, that we have to compete constantly to make the system perfect. That's the point of democracy.
I'll come to a point where I'll actually ask about that definition of democracy and whether there is just one size-fits-all definition for democracy. Because sometimes I feel that democracy in a certain context then is taken across the globe and it's supposed to fit all the contexts. And I'll have arguments about that. But maybe before I even come in and ask, let's just ask our audience. Again, green, red. Green, yes. Red, no. What's the question again, Smart?
All right. Do you feel that Kenya is more democratic today than it was 35 years ago? Straight question. Green is absolutely yes. Kenya is doing fantastically well. Red, we've regressed. We're not doing well. Just raise it up a bit. Not really. There's 2 greens here and 5. So yes, we appear like more people are saying. Can I just get the microphone to those who feel that we are doing well? Let's start with the wells. Just put your green flags. Brilliant. Where's the microphone? Where's the microphone? I want the ones who are doing well. Give the gentleman at the back. Your name quickly, 30 seconds, please stand up. Why do you think we're doing extremely well?
Thank you so much. My name is Bernard Karanja from Nyandarua County. I feel that Kenya is trying to wear that face of democracy, but its soul is in crisis because this is not the democracy. I feel that this is not the democracy that Kenyans fought for, because as we are seeing police brutality, the extrajudicial killings, and people that we go to protest, they are faced with repression instead of embracing what they are trying to advocate for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who else thinks that we're doing well? And where's the microphone? Please.
Yes, my name is Ayugi. I'm from Langata. I believe, to be honest, democracy is not working in Kenya. And for me, I believe it's a foreign concept that should be thrown away.
So wait. You think it's not working?
It's not working.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying.
Why do you think it's not working?
The system that we have is not set in a manner that it allows democracy in itself to thrive.
Given a chance, what kind of system would you institute?
I think if we because I believe Africans, we have our own way of ruling ourselves. Democracy is a foreign concept that should be done away with. Let's Africans get back to ourselves, realize and think of what is it, how exactly are we going to rule ourselves.
So you'd want a king, a chief
kind
native,
of, I think that can work, because if you look at countries,
it's a very good point. It's a very good point.
If you look at countries like maybe China, we don't have these issues that you see around people fighting one another, police killing people aimlessly like that, because they have a different system of governance. These are foreign things that came with the Europeans and Americans. They're trying to push it down our throats. It is not even working in America that they're talking about. In America, it's not working. So for me,
you do have a very good point.
Yes, probably you should call me for this debate on another day, because democracy is not working enough. Yes.
I take your point.
Thank you.
Who else thinks that it is working? I want the positive voices first, because I mean, yes, 2 more, and then we go to why it's not working. Where's the microphone? The gentleman there, please stand. Why do you think it's working?
Thank you. My name is Simon Omboa from Kadhiani constituency. As a lawyer, I want to say that democracy is working, and we are at least realizing it from this perspective. I would define democracy to be the balance between the power we vest directly to the indirectly to those who we elect, and the legitimate expectation, what we expect from them. Actually, there is always internalization and actualization of law. I can say that currently, for us to say we are democratic, about 90% of the laws enshrined in the Bill of Rights, today we can fight for them, we can actualize for them, we can go to the streets, we can protest. At least we are democratic from that point. I can say the Constitution, being the supreme law of Kenya, is working. It's not just law on books.
It's working. So for you, it's the ability for the citizens to push back and go to, say, courts and that space. That's democracy, and for you, it is working.
Yeah, it's working because we are achieving some equilibrium.
All right. Who else? One final one. Who do you think it's working?
Yes, good evening. I'm Godfrey. I think...
What's your name, sir?
Oh, Godfrey. Yeah, I'm from Kibra.
Yeah.
I think, to me, I'll just compare our country to our neighbors. And comparing Kenya to countries like Uganda and Tanzania, I'll definitely say our democracy is there. We can question these people. And at the same time, we've seen our courts ordering president to do things. These things, you cannot see them in other countries like Tanzania or Uganda. So to me, I think it is working. The problem is those at the top.
Those at the
people
top.
mandated to implement it.
Those at the top. Those at the top. Do you have a different view, sir? Is it working? And that will be the last one before I come. Yes. Give this gentleman the microphone. The gentleman at the back, please stand. Say your name very quickly and tell me, why do you say Kenya's democracy is working?
Yes, my name is Abokelisha from Kibra, and I want to say that Kenyan democracy has grown, and that's the reason as to why you can see Gen Zs on the street. We can mention that Article 1 the power belongs to the people. We cannot say that if our democracy has not grown. And the same thing on our constitution that we promulgated in 2010, it is clearly giving us the mandate, and it is so clear that we can quote that Article 37 can give us the power to go to the street.
Right.
Our democracy has grown compared to that of Tanzania and Uganda. You see, you cannot even try to demonstrate in Uganda. You will be in for it. Thank you.
All right, ladies, gents. Few things. I'll come back to you guys because this is very important, right? There's several things here. One is historically, which is a fact, that democracy is not a thing that we came about with. So as Africans, right? It was a transported idea. That's a fact. That's truth. And perhaps, for argument purposes, maybe there's a better system of governing ourselves. That is one. Two, which is critical and important, the fact that there is ability to do certain things in this country. Go to courts, petition the courts, and get judgments, all right, against the executive, all right? And that's just, a big example, and it comes out as an important factor because if you, say, look at how our neighbors or look at how other countries don't have that right, then on those two rights, then you can say, maybe there's a thing. I don't know where to start. Sharon.
Right. I mean, I don't know what reverting to what was before democracy would be.
Chiefdom.
The African traditional system.
Yeah.
Council of Elders.
Council of Elders.
It was
And I guess
collegial.
there's some underlying systems and frameworks that you can see correlating with the system of democracy. It's about how it works, and it comes down to the point of, are we somewhere? Are we doing well 35 years later? I feel we have grown significantly as a democracy. We cannot refute how far we have come. We have a constitution, we enjoy freedoms and rights. And I think one of the big issues that we face as a country is the spirit of the people who then we entitle with leadership, with the oversight of governance, and just leading according to the Constitution. And one of the pillars that we have mentioned is separation of powers. And the essentiality of this is to make sure that one person, this is what we were actually coming away from when we went, when we agitated for multi-party democracy in the country, so that you can oversight, you can have dissent on whatever rules, whatever decisions are made on behalf of us as citizens. But let's look at the reality of what is happening on the ground today. Parliament is meant to do, to legislate. Do they do that independently?
I mean, Pasaris is doing.
How independent?
This is, I mean, the ability, I think you have to, even if they pass ridiculous laws, and even if, for argument purposes, and even if those members of Parliament are not independent-minded, there's a performance of democracy. And there has to be something in there, that at least you're performing democracy.
Right.
We might not be delivering democracy, but we're performing democracy.
James, a good dancer knows when to leave the stage. So for how long should they perform?
But as long as it's feasible.
I want to come in and say, we are saying 35 years ago versus today, right? So 35 years ago, we didn't have that collegial African traditional way of, but 35 years ago, we had gone and bought this bread in the market and we had brought it home, okay? So let's accept that this is our bread. So let's gauge it from the bread. Now, 35 years ago, and I agree with Sharon, in that a lot has changed. 35 years ago, we had a constitution that was vague on where the sovereignty lie. Today, we have a constitution that clearly spells out that the people are the sovereign. That's number one, right? That means that the people are the ones who have the power, and they're the ones who will know what to do with that power. And they shall, donate that power to institutions and leaders and expect them to do work. But also it doesn't end there, that the people shall also oversight these people by making sure that they go back to a ballot and pass a vote of confidence. Yeah. And in many cases, there's a way to remove any non-performing executive at any point during their tenure. Okay, it's all set in. So we have systems that are working now, and you can look at it and you can see that they are better. If you look at what was happening, for example, 35 years ago, Daniel Arap Moi was the president. Daniel Arap Moi could prorogue parliament. Prorogue here means that anaamka anasema amevunja bunge. Okay? Parliament, all of you, 290 plus 12, go home. I'm calling an election. Today, the president cannot control the calendar of parliament. Okay? The calendar of parliament is set by parliament, and when they go on recess and so on and so forth, and when we go to an election is also set in the law. The president cannot determine that. So, have we separated powers? I think we have. The president picked electoral commissioners directly. For example, in the 1992 first multi-party election, the president picked all 12 commissioners. In 1997, he was about to, and then parliamentarians came and pushed, and they said, okay, let's have IPPG. And they said, all right, so you opposition people, you can pick a few. But still, the president appoints. Today, the appointment of electoral commissioners is in law, not a preserve of the president. In fact, the president does not participate. The president only comes to appoint them, playing a ceremonial role of head of state to gazette. So there are changes that have taken place. If we look back and say, oh, but you see, is parliament neutered, but so on and so forth, blame the people. They have the power.
Well, but didn't our judiciary actually dissolve this parliament, but there's no respect to the same separation of power, which happens to be the judiciary. We keep shouting about a democracy that very much exists within the people's crowds, but very much less in the political spaces. Well, I think I support. There is democracy in the textbooks that I read in social studies when I was back in class 7.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's democracy.
Age is an illusion.
This is democracy. I'm going to say whatever you want to say, but please go.
And I remember our Lives Today social studies textbook, which I remember was very comprehensive because apart from Mwai Kibaki giving us free education, social studies was free, right? And so I remember we were told the judiciary interprets, the legislature makes, and then the executive implements. I grew up and I found out that there's one arm of government that does everyone's job, and now I'm confused about what I was taught by my teachers. But then importantly, I think for me, when I look at, and thank God, us Gen Zs were not born before the Constitution was promulgated, after all that. Because again, the gender rule in Parliament right now scares me away because again, when I think about the person representing me in Parliament, is it better than it was a couple of years ago? Yes. Has there been any changes that have primarily happened? None at all. In fact, today my hot button was somebody who I fully very much looked up to bring changes since women have come to Parliament. The Chief Justice, the Attorney General. And so this gender consciousness that we do have, please understand that there are very well-educated, scientific, political young women outside here that can actually sit on these positions. Another issue, I was growing up knowing that there are free and fair elections. And I can't tell you how excited I was to get my ID because I knew I would vote. Now,
great.
It is free in thought. Execution is very much independent of who is around. So all these things become relevant. So I think I want the older generation to explain to me, where does democracy actually lie if it does not lie within the people power that we Gen Zs are actually living towards? Otherwise, I have very credible questions.
So let's be a bit more perceptive. And this question of performative democracy. So important things are going to vote elections. We spend quite significantly in this exercise of an election, okay? And it's one of those performative things, the shiny things about democracy, that if you go and vote and then the person that you really wanted to win wins, then perhaps there's democracy, all right? And if your person doesn't win, democracy is a bit shaken, right? We've seen that consistently for quite a while. So I want to go back to you guys and your boards again. For those who think that our democracy is not working, I really want to figure out what is it exactly that is not working, okay? Please put your boards again. For those who think democracy is not working for Kenya, where is the microphone? Someone who's not spoken. Yes, this gentleman. Yes. Yes, please. Your name and very quickly, what is it that is not working in democracy for you?
Oh, thank you. I'm David Ogutu from Kibra. And the question of democracy is in a limbo in Kenya because people are now talking about leadership. I like the faith of the GNC talking about leaderless. Mm-hmm. They're talking about tribalists, and they're being led by the same faith. And this is what we are also learning, that how really this affects the life of the young people. This is what is now eating Kenya, because the leaders of Kenya today are divided, and we are led according to the tribe. So the people who could even lead with this constitution we have is the people that we really, the kind of leadership that we really bestow, the kind of leaders that we elect.
So to get
how do we elect? That's the question now. How do you elect these leaders?
Yeah, to get you correctly, that the fact that the people that we elect tend to be tribal, it shows you that for some reason our democracy is not working. It's not correct. All right, that's a good point.
Not.
The gentleman, give this gentleman on your right, just give the microphone. Him, the one, yes, you. Quickly, stand up. Your name, what is it with democracy that doesn't work for you?
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Kioko. I come from Kitui County. Democracy is not working because we are given chance to give our dissent. But now, and that is meant to improve governance. But now when we give our dissent, it turns to us and we get killed. You know, and the fact that the government is deciding to barricade roads, you know, instead of fixing what is causing these people to go in the streets, it's, you know, it's an indication that the government is afraid of the people who are exercising their right, and they are meant to improve governance.
Okay.
But that is not what they're doing. Thank you.
All right. Another, yes, please. What is it exactly that doesn't work for you?
My name is Peter Obada. I'm from Siaya. We talk of democracy. My question tonight
is democracy, not in quotes.
What is democracy without justice?
All right.
You talk of democracy. Where's justice for Rex Masai? Where's justice for Albert Ojwang? And many others. You talk of justice. Where's justice to those who are coming to the street and the laws are being implemented in our National Assembly to prevent them from accessing public places, just to showcase the dissatisfaction with the government of the day? And by the way, what is democracy?
What is democracy? That's a good point. Yes, sir. What is it exactly that doesn't work for you in this democracy question?
Okay. My name is Javan Olo, a leader, strategist, and an orator. First of all, when talking about democracy, our constitution as integrated, it is written on paper, but the people implementing it is still no. Why am I saying this? We are in a situation, there's a quote that I like saying, for men will understand this quote. When a mosquito lands on your testicles, you will find a peaceful way on how to deal with the situation. We are having a government whereby when you put them accountable to whatever that is written in the constitution, they now decide to fight back with fire. And let me tell you, there's a generation that is coming, that is we. Allow me say this. There's this generation that is coming. We will get to power. And those people that are looting things and doing all these kind of things, you will return them, my friends. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, smart.
I'll come back. Don't worry.
We have posed this question also online. Yeah. And of course, our hashtag tonight is the last word NTV. On all our social media platforms at NTV Kenya. On YouTube, 64% of those who have polled say that we don't have a democracy. Is Kenya a more democratic state today than it was 35 years ago? 64% say no. Yes, it's only 36%. Let me just sample some of them. PM says, honestly, you can't compare democracy 35 years ago to today as much as it has kind of failed, it's better than it was 35 years ago. James Karongo says, no democracy. Luther, we have democracy. Interpretation of the Constitution is where we have a contradiction.
Right. 2 points, I think, for me. The Constitution, especially the one that we have, comes from a backdrop of the Saba Saba. So, with what we have said, we had this one-party state, and we were really upset by one person controlling everything. Essentially, the president would come to your village, that's when you'll get roads. The president decided when your village would get a school, and that sort of thing. And we were upset about it. And we said, it can't be so. We need a way on how to distribute this power. So this is how our Constitution essentially is set up. The point of our Constitution is that we were extremely scared concentrating power in one office or one person, and we wanted to distribute it across, which is why you have constitutional commissions, which is why we have parliament and give parliament powers, all right, and the judiciary. And we said, as Zaha explained to us, the executive gets to implement the things that we, the people, want.
Right. And I want to look at one of the indicators that we are not in a bad place as a democracy, and that is judicial independence. We've seen the judiciary making some high-profile rulings the last couple of years that really showcase their independence and show the health and possibilities. I mean, there are challenges, but some of the examples, I mean, we can remember the 2017 presidential election that was nullified, you know, first of its kind of its ruling in Africa. Recently, in 2024, the High Court declared the national government Constituencies Development Fund as unconstitutional. We also saw in 2021 the High Court ruling that the government could not proceed with the Huduma number rollout, and also in 2023 declaring the creation of the CAS positions as unconstitutional as well. And in 2020, I think Zaha had referenced this. We had the then Chief Justice David Maraga issuing an advisory to the president to dissolve parliament, and also the court ruling that the BBI process was unconstitutional. First, showcasing the independence of the judiciary and separation from the executives. But that said, we've also seen time and time again the judges and judicial officers being on the receiving side, of insults from this high power, high-level leaders and all of that. And also we've seen CSs, we've seen leaders defying court orders. These are some of the challenges that we face. But in terms of the health and the freedoms and the independence of the judiciary, I think it's one of the pillars that we can say is a leg to stand on.
So we're agreeing on a few things here in this room, that what we want is our politicians a bit constrained, right? A show of red flag, green flag. Who wants our politicians basically to control everything? Green flag, anyone? You want control? Everything, like what you had 35 years ago. The president deciding when we have the roads, when you have the schools, when you have... Who would like that kind of a system?
Not even anyone who's thinking.
Not just the president, right? So we're agreeing that one of the things that is important for us, all of us, is this distributive power. The ability to have different centers of power, all right? The ability that members of parliament can audit the president or the presidency. They can also be audited by the judiciary. And that way, everyone has a bit of powers, that it's not concentrated in one place. That's an important thing, Zaha, is it not?
Well, sometimes I think we tend to make the country look like it only exists within the political class and what they have to do and what not. The Constitution is like an employer too. It tells you exactly what you're supposed to do when you get to the seat. Then we have individualism that comes in, and therefore you decide what you want to do with your legislative seat. So if it was up to me, genuinely, if I had my own small island, there would be no politicians in the first place. distributive power actually exists and has existed in the African context for a very long time, and very much so that we have seen from both ends, whereby patriarchal systems were existent in some extent, but we also have matriarchal systems that also upheld the constitutionalism of whatever the African context was. So I think for me, it would only be fair for me to be in a country that allows me to exist, that opportunities exist, and that I'm not necessarily pushed back to my house through death, through forceful pushback on dissent, but a country that allows me to be free as a young person, to go and grow to the best of my abilities as I am.
All right, you're watching The Last Word. We are live streaming on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, X, Twitter, websites, on social media handles. It's at NTV Kenya on all platforms, and on website it's ntvkenya.co.ke. We are taking a very short break. Don't use your democracy to switch. We'll be right back. Don't go too far.
Into an unforgettable adventure with sour, long-lasting bath soap. Kuna mengi na mengineyo yanayotokea mashinani.
Je, uhasama unaoshuhudiwa mpakani Kisii na Narok utaikuwa na suluhisho?
Tunapoteza maisha ya watu kwa sababu ya ng'ombe.
Unakijua kinachoathiri maisha ya watu kwako?
Tumeteseka sana juu ya mchanga tulimwagiwa.
Watusaidie ama wakuja watoe hivi vitu zao waende nazo.
Wito wako ni kwa serikali na wahisani kujitokeza ili kuweza kumuondoa katika hali hii ya uchochole.
Sehemu hii ndio mali maji mengi sana upita yakiharibu mali, yakibeba nyumba za watu.
Na je, dunia inasemaje?
Acha uongo bwana. Acha uongo rais.
Hii area iko na wizi mbaya sana.
Hapo hiyo meru sisi hatujapata haki kabisa.
Kuongea mambo ya biashara kwetu hizo ni kama hadithi. Maana inabidi tu angalie biashara zimefungwa huku.
NTV Mashinani ni jukwaa lako. Tunaleta taarifa na matukio kutoka kwa wananchi kwa ajili ya wananchi.
Kama hii wiki itakuwa imeisha kama hatujaona dalili, hii barabara tutapanda mahindi.
Ukiwa na simu mkononi, wewe ni mwanahabari. Wakilisha jimbo, mtaa na kijiji chako. Tuma video yako kwa WhatsApp 011-2500-400. Kila siku ya wiki, saa 12:30. NTV Mashinani. Hii ni yako.
I have more than enough time, resources, and lawyers to bury you.
Well, that's what I'm going to do. How about that?
And who's the guy approaching us?
I'm attorney Rogelio Cedeno. I'm here to check a complicated case of adoption.
There's nothing between us. Why should I accept your offer in the first place?
Well, but we could be, right?
Sebastian.
Clarita, each time I see you, my feelings get stronger.
Leo, I better leave. Then you better scram. Don't claim victory just yet, because I'm going to defend myself.
You are the one. This is The Last Word.
All right, welcome back. Good evening. This is The Last Word. We are asking questions, trying to really interpret and find, has democracy improved, regressed since 35 years ago when we had the first inflection point, and having this conversation of what exactly is democracy, what does it mean, and what this question of perception, do we feel, is it real? All right? Feeling and real. Two different things.
That's absolutely right. And one of the pillars that we're standing on, we're looking at with regards to the state of Kenya's democracy is freedoms. And one pillar, one freedom that we cannot afford not to look at is media freedom, because this is a fourth estate. This is an industry that allows the citizen to see what is happening. Of course, this has since expanded from legacy media. We have digital media that has really made the space healthy, because the kind of information that is shared now, the kind of instant, opportunity to interact with the decisions that are made on your behalf and what is happening across the country really allows you to exercise your democratic rights, isn't it? Because you know what is happening, you know what to question. But we've seen in the recent past, particularly, the Communications Authority during the June 25th anniversary, just a few weeks ago, shutting down live broadcasts across all platforms, which was a direct infringement of media freedoms. And it is really appalling that in such a day and time that we have come this far, that such an order can come. And I remember that the courts immediately turned around, the High Court making a ruling that lifting this ban that was placed by the Communications Authority, but that this can happen and that they can have access even to go and shut down the transmissions still shows that, you know, there's some red flags.
Right. I mean, I would give a certain score for that. On the question of media freedom, I would say this, that on all the protests and elections, there's always been something that is sacrosanct, that journalists who cover these events have not been targeted by the police and have not been injured. In the last year, on each and of those days there's been protests, there's been an injury of a journalist, there's been a direct attack at the media. On that score, we have regressed.
I'm icked. I'm icked to talk about the medical ones as well.
I was actually going to come in and say, and you can join in on that. We see those kind of things where the status quo is trying to push back on the little gains. Remember, you did not just receive those gains, you fought and earned those gains, and there's a system that you're pushing against. So it's trying to push back. For me, I look at it from the point of the fact that there's a law and there's a judiciary that can come and reverse that order, and you're back on air immediately. That's true. That is a movement of the needle to the positive. There's always going to be this pushback. It's how do you safeguard against those pushbacks?
So a democracy does not mean that we're just sitting and enjoing our rights and our freedoms.
No, it doesn't.
All right. That's a fair point.
You know, everything in this country gives me, when I wake up in the morning at 7 a.m., I'm like, let me first of all soak in the realities of what I live in before I go to my assumptions of what I would wish to be. And a lot of pushback on dissent, and when James was mentioning journalists, I was at the medical tent, and I remember a whole lorry trying to fit into one small portion just to harm medical officers. And then for me, it becomes, again, even when the Constitution is so clear about who is supposed to be protected and the freedoms of expression that are actually very much aligned in the Constitution, there are faculties and constituents within the government that really do not seem to respect the responsibilities that they have to the freedoms of the people. So they are there, yes, but then who implements those subjective freedoms, and where do we actually see them and that they are ascertained? It's difficult in Kenya.
I want to bring it to the other side, that now we have institutions that are supposed to safeguard this, okay? So we have got the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. We've got several constitutional commissions in place to deal with human rights, to make sure that the government is working. There's an ombudsman to make sure that we do not fight each other. There is, cohesion commission. We've got a public service commission, a parliamentary service commission, a judicial service commission, and so on and so forth. And we've got the two independent offices in the Constitution, the controller of budget and the auditor general. So you see, these are oversight checks and balances that are there in place. Again, I want to come back and say, sovereign power vests with the people. Yes. Okay? And my pushback is, we shall not be democratic until we take the reins of our democracy. It's upon us, the people, to make sure that we are enjoying the fruits of our democracy as the sovereign. We can't just abrogate our powers and sit back and then be like, oh, no, but they've taken my power. No.
But Latif, don't you think we as Gen Zs have actually demonstrated that on the one time we choose to
remind...
A
few of you have. Remember, 75% of this country is this young population. Not all young people are speaking the same language, and that's why I say, a few Gen Zs came out on the streets, and now it's not everybody.
A few?
Yes. We are 53 million people.
And we form 70% of the population.
Okay, 70% of 53 million. Who's the math person here? Did we see those many people in the streets?
Hakuna mtu wa mathematics hapa. So two things that are important. One, the idea that we go to vote and vote for people. So we have a responsibility on the people that eventually end up leading us. That's our responsibility. And we get to this whole chicken and egg situation, which comes first, So we say, but, we vote for these people, they are all bad, I have options of only bad people on the ballot, so I'll take the least evil, if you like, which is our famous Kenyan thing that we like to. That's one. So we have to discuss our responsibility as citizens. At what point do we actually stop bad leaders from getting into office? That is one, critical and important. Two, democracy has to deliver the goods, and it hasn't across the board, unfortunately, in terms of how we feel. Because if we elect people in office, I need to get employment, I need to work, I need to live in a safe country that actually, I can progress, be whoever I want to be. Now, if that is not possible, then that democracy doesn't work. Then I'd rather live in a chiefdom, okay? If the chief then allows me to, have gold bars every single day, for argument purposes. So there are two things that I want us to discuss. I'm going to come back to you guys for one final round before we wrap this up. What is our responsibility as citizens in making sure that we actually stop bad people from getting into office? Or we just pass them through? And we know these bad people, all right? Two things. Can I get a hand? What is our responsibility? What do you think you can do? Let me get this gentleman here on the right, then I'll come back to you. Give him the microphone. The gentleman on a blue blazer. What is your responsibility in getting the right people to get into office? How does that look like for you?
My name is Evan Sonyango. I'm from Kasarani. My first responsibility and the responsibility of the other citizens in this country is to ensure that we vote in the right leaders in office. If somebody has got a record of corruption, they have never delivered before, we should not vote them in. That is number one. Number two, as citizens, we have got the responsibility of recalling leaders who are failing to perform. Esther Passaris should be recalled, Silvanus Osoro should be recalled, and any other member of parliament or women rep who has not performed in this country should be recalled back to the constituency, and we put back the people who are supposed to be in those positions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, your name and what is your responsibility? What is your space in making sure that democracy actually succeeds?
Yes, good evening. My name is Logo Alokwe, and I come from Trans Nzoia County. One thing that I will surely do is that when I go to vote, I will not vote with emotions. I will not vote with emotions just because someone gave me something. If I'm given, yes, I'll take. Another thing is...
will it influence you? If you're given something, will it influence how you vote?
As a Kenyan, and as the way you see me, sina kakitu, but nikipewa, I'll take it.
And then you'll have to vote that way?
I won't vote that person. Yeah. I won't vote with emotions just because I'm nilipewa kitu. Another thing I will do is that those leaders that are not performing well in the office should not go back there because they are the ones failing us. Another thing that I will do is that I will not vote on the basis of tribal. I will not vote in a person of my tribe just because, well, he's another Logoa or he's another Lokwe. You get? Those are the things that I, as a Gen Z, I don't advocate for voting in people that are basically from your tribe. But you should vote in people who have ideas that will pivot our nation to the next level. Thank you.
The lady sitting next to you, you're agreeing and disagreeing. Do you have a responsibility? You do not have a responsibility. All right, let's just pass the microphone at the back. I want to hear the female voice.
Good evening. My name is Alfonso Chengowiti from Kilifi. I think what should be done as a voter, before you vote a new member of parliament or a senator or a president, we have what is being done in the NGO system. And there are two things that are being done in the NGO system. Number one, we have what is called due diligence. Number two, we have what is called traction record. Like if an NGO wants to fund you now, they will look at your traction record or traction report, what you've done 2 years ago, 1 month ago, 6 months ago. then they'll be like, yes, this startup or this CBO, they're doing very good stuff.
Right.
They're empowering community, society. Actually, the fruit is positive. Then the financiers will like, okay, what if I empower this person? It means if I empower this person and currently is empowering 10 people, he will now empower other 20 more people. That is the same thing that we need to do when we are going to vote. Look at the due diligence. Like Mark, this politician, has he ever been found in any corruption cases? Has he ever been found in any malpractice cases? If yes, then that person is not correct for that position.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The microphone this side. Yes, give your thought and give the gentleman.
Thank you. My name is Reri Wallen from Embu. The shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. And I have opted to use this because Jesus wept when he foresaw the situation we are in Kenya currently. On the issue of my responsibility, we can vote in a person with a good track record, but later on that person gets to that place, he changes. So my own opinion is that we should at least, we as Kenyans, amend the constitution and make the process of recalling, the process of impeaching, make it a bit easier so that we can have it as Kenyans.
That's a very good point.
Faster, so that we can at least remove someone from office other than overstaying there.
Overstaying there.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Timothy Mulo. I am a law student. I think as Gen Zs, we have a role to play when it comes to a good democracy. We cannot talk about democracy without talking about the sovereignty of the people. And in that case, we must vote in good leaders. And before we come to even recalling, we must have good leaders in position. The problem that we have as a nation currently, it is not because the citizen cannot practice their rights. It is because we have bad leadership, and it begins with bad voting. So as Gen Zs, we have a role to play in terms of informing the previous generation how to vote in right, because our democracy is going, it is dwindling because of the aspect of voting wrongly. We need to get the cards straight by voting right come 2027.
Okay. You 30 seconds very quickly.
I think an informed citizen is an empowered citizen.
Right.
So it's our mandate to inform our fellow Kenyans so that when this time comes, they know who they're going to get in there. Because it has come, as my friend has said, that you can get a very good person with good track records in those offices, but at the end of the day, when they get to the power, they change. Definitely, if as Kenyans and the young generation in this nation, we can be given that mandate, even to amend this constitution of Kenya Modi. At least we amend it. Then from there, whenever you are caught of any case, like I'm proposing for any elected leader, after 3 months you come to the public, you declare you are wealthy after 3 months. After 3 months you declare you are wealthy, so that we can hold everybody accountable after 3 months. Thank you.
All right. This lady has finally a responsibility. Please, hand the mic to her. She wants to give us something. Please tell us your name.
Hi, my name is Patricia. My question goes to us as the Gen Z. I mean, smart. If us, we bring an individual who we want to bring in the system, we want to vote in. And then we have a certain individual who has been in the seat. I come from a humble background. I can't even afford 500 shillings to eat. It's time to vote. I don't have that 200. I don't have that 100. And the same individual who was sitting in that seat comes and gives me like 1,000. I'll still go and vote. The problem starts with us. We can't just advocating to vote individuals who can do change, and yet it is us who are the problem. So it should start with us educating each other why you should vote this individual, what this individual is going to do to you for you to get more than 500 just for today. So it starts with us. We don't just say we want change. We want change. Change for what? Start the change here. Start the change with us. We don't just start the change by talking online and saying we want the change. We don't want these people because they can't do this, they can't do this and this. No. You and me, we start here together. I tell you, this is who you need to vote. You're voting this guy, it comes, not us having this and telling people, don't vote this because this, no. Here. It starts here.
That's a very interesting perspective. And right before we move, because again, we're in a country where information is very viable, I tend to disagree, partly because systems exist to manipulate citizens into looking at economic chaos that influences how they vote, courtesy of the fact that they do not have access. It's a fact that Kenyans would wish to have a very good governance, but you exist in a state that is constantly depressing. And that you've raised a very important point whereby economically, when somebody offers something else, you might think, okay, I'll take this 100 because I don't have. But to what stance? Because they won't be there after getting into the seat to give you again and again. So the point becomes you are needed to expect better governance. It's supposed to be there. It's your right in the Constitution. So systems have to work specifically to ensure that you don't have to entirely be in that position. And we need to demystify that these democratic positions are personified into an individual and create systems where leaders can actually sit there with or without a very good background.
System, yet it is you who thinks the system has to work. Personally, maybe I don't know the reason why the system has to work. You have to come and talk to me. You have to tell me this system has to work like this. Like you have to come to my level and talk to me. I don't just have to say the system has to work because you're saying the system has to work.
Yeah.
No. The system has to work because you have to come and tell me we have to do this. You know what?
We have to work the system.
You have to level yourself to us who are down here who do not understand. In as much as you're understanding the system has to work, because we have individuals who are doing certain things which are not to be there. Personally, if I'm there, I don't even watch news. I don't even know who is running who. I don't know who is the CS doing what and what. I don't even know when the budget is being read. Personally, in my hood, you bring for me 1,000, I will vote. But if you come and tell me, don't do this, because if you do this, this and this will not happen, people will not vote. We have that gap. And as long as we're not fixing that gap, we will still have the same leaders sitting in the same seat. So that gap has to be fixed by us going down and talking to people. So we can't just talk because you think it has to be there. No, we have to talk.
This is a hot one.
That's interesting.
It's a very hot issue.
I thought you said that Gen Z went through free education. So
that's exactly the issue. It's that
our
information
levels
is there.
are higher.
There's
we
room
have
for
a
disagreement.
responsibility to actually take up the task and learn. So actually, when you say we're supposed to go to a level and educate, it's actually a mandate of the IEBC to continuously educate Kenyans, right? On the act of and apart from that, you're also obligated as a citizen to know what exactly you stand for and what exactly you should expect, because you cannot ask for something you do not know. So we have the responsibility as an educated and a very, very promising generation to not only ask questions, because again, we had the finance bill, people translated it into different languages and Kenyans understood, and that created civic space for us to ask for these rights. You have an obligation to understand what your right is before it's given unto you.
My sister,
my
name is Peter Obada. We are in the third world country. Kenya is a third world country. Not all of us, like you do, have an access to all information. So that is why my sister here, she wasn't necessarily insinuating about her, but about those other people who are in the rural areas that are not having access to these informations.
I agree.
Secondly, on my point, what I wanted to say is, we don't have to lie ourselves, Gen Zs.
Right.
We have to make Kenyan politics cheap.
Kenyan politics cheap?
Yeah.
All right. So
the fact is, let me just finish. Right now, let's say, for example, I'm running for a member of parliament. I'm campaigning with a lot of money, and it is in millions. When I get to the office, what do you expect?
You'll have to recover your money.
Paradox. Yeah.
I fully agree, but I want us to wrap it.
There's a complete contradiction as you come and wrap.
Yes.
On one hand, you're saying you want elections to be cheap. On the other hand, you're saying you want to be given handouts. Choose You're poison anyway. Smart.
That is why you are talking about democracy. We have freedoms of speech.
Yes.
You have to
we have to express ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to give back whatever you feel.
But I want to ask, what's this paradox? How do we break the deadlock? What do we think is the most important office in this country today? What do we think is the most important office? You've still at the microphone. What is the most important office?
The most important office in this nation is the office of the people.
Office of the people?
Of the people.
All right.
We are the people. We are the employers of the government.
Brilliant.
Our office is the most important.
So we've answered the question that for us to break this, the problem we have, a paradox, is the most important office is the office of the citizen, we the people. So it is upon us to make choices and decisions that are going to make sure that we end up in a situation that betters all of us, right? Now, I understand on one hand that we are still economically disempowered. We have gaps of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. All those things are true and fact. But still, what democracy then offers us, as Churchill told us, the person with less information and the person with more information, they have one vote each. And the value is the same of that one vote. That is where we are. And that is our problem. And that is our opportunity to fix it. All right? So, let's wrap this up. Latif.
I've got a couple of comments just that have been shared, and I want to look at that and then also look at what the poll is saying tonight. Kimani Geshoke says, 35 years after Saba Saba, we vote, we speak. Do they listen? Kenya's democracy is alive, but on life support. PM, the only way remaining be responsible is registering as voters and taking part in elections. We've got a very lazy generation. If they want change, ballot. Jack, one of the problems is expecting Kenyans to elect 6 different positions on the same day and elect wisely. Imagine if we host staggered elections, maybe elect legislators 2 or 3 years after the executive.
Yeah.
You know, but the way it is now, they get in together, they live together, they conspire to cause the most damage together because they're in the same boat together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to look at the opinion. The question is, is Kenya a more democratic state today than it was 35 years ago?
Yeah.
Those on NTV Kenya on Instagram, 83% say no, 17% say yes. On YouTube, 63% no, 37% yes. On X, 80% no, 20% yes. An overwhelming no.
Where do you want to wrap this up?
Well, I want to wrap up by first getting this out of my chest.
Yes.
Well, I want to share a response that is also an opportunity we can think about, and specifically to young people. And why I keep pushing back on the fact that we have an opportunity to do better. 93% of households in Kenya at least have one mobile phone. 139% mobile device penetration, meaning oversaturation. 64% of individuals personally own a mobile phone. 41% of Kenyans actively use the internet. 24% of households use the internet at home. 23.5% of the population, which equates to 13 million, are on social media platforms. There's an opportunity there to close a gap, to re-educate one another. And that has been relevant in June this year, June last year, where we recognized our privilege index and we assisted the entire country to coagulate into one function, which is to end the finance bill. I think that's an opportunity right there to close the gaps and invite young people to do better come next elections.
All right.
Right, and my take home, my last word on this is that we can see how far we have come as a democracy, but the truth is that there's an ongoing tension between democratic ideals and, practical governance as we are seeing it. And largely, what has come out from our discussion is that what undermines these principles that we have in blueprint really as a country is the people that then we have bestowed the power to execute this power of governance on our behalf. The politicization of governance, high politicization of governance, you know, from the executive, the interference that we have seen with legislation, with the judiciary, you know, with the freedoms that the people have guaranteed in the Constitution. So then it comes down to the supreme power of the people to decide to whom we are going to bestow, you know, the fundamental job of governance.
Latif, you have a last word.
Mine is, we are more democratic today than we were 35 years ago. On paper, we have a more enlightened citizenry, and it's just about the citizenry that's exercising their democracy. That's it.
All right, so we've spoken a lot, but what really is the absolute final word on this question? Do we think, or do we feel that today Kenya's democracy has regressed? Now, public dissatisfaction with democracy continues to outweigh satisfaction across many countries. Now, Pew Research Center, which has been surveying since 2017, as a stat, Canada, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, the United Kingdom, and the United States, a median of 64% of adults say they are dissatisfied with the way that democracy is working. Now, just like us, since 2024, satisfaction with democracy has decreased in 5 countries: Israel, Japan, Kenya, Poland, and South Korea. Now, 58% of Kenyans think our democracy has regressed, while 40% still believe our democracy is intact. You've had sense of this on social media. There's this, most Kenyans currently feel democracy is not working. Now, it is worth noting that this shows a decrease. In other words, a few years ago, Kenyans thought our democracy was in a good place. Many factors does influence how satisfied people feel about the way our democracy is working. But key, economic perceptions are the most important considerations. Countries where a large share of the public says the economy is in good shape also tend to have a large share of who are satisfied with their democracy. As an example, during President Mwai Kibaki's era of economic growth, Kenyans believed our democracy was thriving. So what does all this mean? Does this mean people are turning away from democratic ideals that we've spoken about? Pew Research suggests otherwise. It shows that people around the globe think representative democracy is a good system of governance. At the same time, many people are frustrated with political elites or feel their views are not truly represented in government. Our political elites are living in glass houses across the world. We are not crazy. That is the last word. Thank you very much from where you're coming from. On ground, please clap for yourself. You've done very well. And all those who've joined us online, participating in polls and all your comments, thank you very much for your company tonight. And on air, I've not been alone. Eric Latif, Zai Dimuli, Sharon Dimuli. My name is James Smart. Please do have a lovely night. We'll see you again next week here at the same station. Sharon Momani. That's the last word. My name is James Smart. Please, it's been a long night. Have a lovely night, everyone.